Before we jump into today's episode of Warriors Today by Chat Sports, got a little challenge for you guys, trying to get 200 comments on today's video. So type me if you want a shout out. And producer Jack and Sam told me the person who comments the most on today's show is going to get a special shout out on one of our next shows coming up. So type me, or hell, type anything, and we'll get you guys a shout out coming up very soon. It is Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am Harrison Graham, and obviously the NBA trade deadline is exactly a week today. So on today's show, we are going to kind of react to what Bleacher Report and The Athletic said, what they previewed for a potential deadline for the Warriors coming up. So that is what we are going to react to on today's show. Let's start with the Bleacher Report, as they gave their trade deadline preview for Golden State. And before we get into that, these are kind of the assets that Golden State is working with. Jonathan Kuminga, James Wiseman, Moses Moody, plus some draft capital. We've talked about kind of the young three before, how Bob Myers and this front office has been reluctant to move some of these young assets, but I also didn't think they thought this team would be hovering around 500 heading into the trade deadline. So are they willing to move a Kuminga, a James Wiseman now? I think you would have to be at least willing to potentially do that. We'll have to wait and see what they end up doing. We'll kind of break this down a little bit further, but I want to ask you guys first. Name a player that the Warriors should trade for. Like, who do you want to go out and get at the NBA trade deadline? Let us know down in the comment section below. All right, let's get to Bleacher Report's trade idea here. Jakob Poeltl for James Wiseman and TBD. Thanks, Bleacher Report. Maybe Wiseman and a pick. I don't think you're giving up a Wiseman and a first. Maybe you are. I don't know. I'd be reluctant to do that, but that is their first idea. Their second idea was with the Charlotte Hornets. P.J. Washington, Mason Plumlee, and Jalen McDaniels for James Wiseman, Moses Moody, and TBD once again. So basically, they're trying to crank up that front court, which that's been a discussion all year because Wiseman hasn't given you much. You've got Kevon Looney, but after that, it's like, you don't have a ton. Certainly, that is going to be a spot that Golden State would like to improve at the deadline. Now, coming up in just a moment, Bleacher Report gives an official prediction of what happens at the deadline. But before we get there, let's tell you about our sponsor today. That is Rocket Money. The Warriors are trying to monitor their finances, and you can as well with the Rocket Money app. Download the app today at rocketmoney.com/NBA. Now, do you know how much your subscriptions really cost? Most Americans think they spend around $80 per month on subscriptions when the actual total cost is closer to $200. That's right. You could be wasting hundreds of dollars each month on subscriptions that you do not even know about. There's this app that I love using that takes care of that problem for me. It's called Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill. This app will show you all of your subscriptions in one place and then cancel for you whatever you don't still want. Rocket Money might even find that you didn't even know you were paying for a subscription that you forgot about. You might even find out that you've been double charged for a subscription. To cancel a subscription, click cancel, and Rocket Money will take care of the rest. So go to rocketmoney.com/NBA now. This app's really user-friendly. Like, if you're trying to go on a budget, you can do that. If you're trying to just lower your monthly spending, there's different categories. It'll tell you of what you're spending, how much you're spending on certain categories each month, like grocery, gas, restaurants, etc. rocketmoney.com/NBA now. I have never had a better feel for my month-to-month finances. Stay on top of your spending today. Okay, here's more from Bleacher Report. I'm not sure if this qualifies as disappointing or encouraging, but the likeliest deadline deal for the Dubs is no deal at all. Kuminga already fills a need for this team with his point-of-attack defense, and his offensive flashes send the imagination running wild with what his future could hold. And while it's possible Wiseman and Moody never fit this system, it still seems early to make that call, especially when trading either one could mean taking back 25 cents on the dollar. Still, it doesn't seem like major moves are in the cards. If the Warriors do add a player or two, that probably won't happen until the buyout market opens. So, yeah, I mean, it's, again, you're in a tough spot if you're Golden State, because do you want to punt on these young guys this early? And if you do, are you willing to do it for not getting proper value? I don't know. Outside of Kuminga, you may not get great value for a James Wiseman. You definitely won't for Wiseman, and you probably won't for Moses Moody either. So it really just comes down to, okay, do we want to move a guy that we think is worth $1 for 50 cents to try and get a little bit better this year, or do we just stand pat and hope this core starts to play better? Maybe the latter is the better option. I guess we'll have to wait and see over the next week. Now, we will take a look at the Athletics trade deadline primer in just a second, but what do you think? Will the Dubs make a trade before the NBA trade deadline? Type Y for yes, type in for no. Let us know what you guys think. All right, let's shift from Bleacher Report to The Athletic, see what the folks at The Athletic think could happen over the next few days. Here's what they had to say. A backup center like Jakob Poeltl or Kelly Olynyk would profile as a useful rotation upgrade. The Warriors already have a set starting lineup, an effective high usage sixth man, that is, of course, Jordan Poole. Two other bench players, Donte DiVincenzo and Jonathan Kuminga, who have solidified themselves. That's a full-strength playoff rotation is unsettled after that. Poeltl and Olynyk would be rentals. They are free agents after this year, which could be a good thing, right? Like, it could mean you don't have to trade as much to get them. Like, you could do a one-for-one swap with maybe a pick in there, which kind of keeps the young pieces intact for the most part, but still helps you this year. So I don't mind the idea of that. And then you can make a decision after the year if you want to sign them, re-sign them or not. So I actually don't have an issue with that. Here's more from The Athletic. Kuminga, Wiseman, and Moody remain likely to be with the Warriors beyond the deadline. They aren't actively shopping their 3 lottery picks, according to those sources, with knowledge of the Warriors' thinking. That isn't to say they couldn't be moved in the right deal, but a rival team hoping to obtain them would be searching to get Moody or Wiseman on a bargain, and the Warriors are in sell low mode. I think there's just too much smoke out there. I think these 3 guys are staying put at this point. The one I'd be willing to move the most is Wiseman, but you're not going to get much for him. I mean, you took him number 2 overall. Like, that was probably a mistake. You probably should have taken LaMelo Ball, but you don't want to move him when his value is this low. I mean, you're just not. What are you going to get for James Wiseman? Are you going to get it? You're not. Are the Spurs going to take him for Jakob Poeltl straight up? I don't know. I guess they might. If they would, I'd consider it. But I just think based on what the tea leaves are saying, those 3 players are not going to get moved. More from The Athletic. Sounds like they believe the Warriors want to add a wing more than a big. They mentioned Jalen McDaniels, Darius Bazley, Obi Toppin as players like that. Guys who can kind of play that stretch 4 too, especially McDaniels and Toppin. They are able to do just that. Toppin give you some athleticism off the bench, a guy who can knock down a corner 3. So that is interesting. Dubs could be a buyout team. We've heard that a lot over the past couple of weeks. You think of a guy like Eric Gordon as a possibility. Rudy Gay has been linked as a buyout candidate if he does not get dealt. So we'll keep an eye on the buyout market once the deadline comes and goes. And then lastly, from The Athletic, they could be interested, or Anthony Lamb matters here is what I meant to say, because they got to figure out what's going to happen, what they're willing to do with Anthony Lamb. He's on a 2-way contract. Do you elevate him to a full contract? Are you willing to part ways there? I don't think so. Here's what The Athletic had to say on this front. The expectation is that Lamb will eventually be converted onto the 15-man. They also have an open spot, and that void will be filled by someone for the playoffs. Per those sources, it's a no-brainer to fill it. Anthony Lamb's been a bit of a surprise, right? I mean, 2-way guy shooting 40% from 3. He's playing 19 minutes per game. Usually these 2-way guys mostly park in the G League, and you don't see him much. But he's actually been a guy that's been able to contribute for this team. And I think he's a guy you probably want to keep around because you're going to have team control over him for cheap for a little while here. So that is something food for thought as well. Is he a guy that you're going to play come playoff time? That might be a bit of a reach, but you think of a guy like in the past, Juan Toscano-Anderson, kind of in a similar ilk, kind of found him out of nowhere. He was a contributor. Now he moved on, but you could see the same happen with Anthony Lamb. So do you want to keep him on the roster? Type K for keep or L for let go. I'd like to keep him, see if he can continue to be a piece for you. That's just my 2 cents, but show's about you guys, so let us know in the comments below. All right, that's going to be it for Warriors Today by Chat Sports. Subscribe for the latest trade buzz over the next week. We will continue to hit you with videos almost every single day, and then once the deadline passes, the buyout market will be here, and that could be when Golden State is most active. So lots of coverage to come over the next week and a half. So this is your hub on YouTube, so hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and we will see you next time here at Warriors Today.